The tension was thick the moment Malik Andrews stepped into the first-class lounge at JFK. Not because he raised his voice. He didn't. Not because he caused a scene. He wouldn't. But because of the way people looked at him, as if he had wandered someplace he didn't belong. He moved with quiet confidence, tailored navy suit, crisp shirt, Italian leather briefcase in one hand, boarding pass and Skyjet black diamond loyalty card in the other. Everything about him screamed executive. But for some, that wasn't enough. "Excuse me, sir," the lounge attendant called out, voice tight and overly bright. "This area is for first-class passengers only." Her eyes didn't land on the card. They landed on his skin. Malik paused, calmly presenting his documents without a word. The attendant took them, scanning twice. Then a third time. Just loud enough for people nearby to hear. Nearby guests, mostly white, subtly turned to watch. A few exchanged glances, some with confusion, others with a flicker of amusement. "Is this your first time in our lounge?" she asked, holding the card just a little too long. "These benefits are reserved for our most premium travelers." Malik looked her in the eyes. "And I'm one of them." But she wasn't done. "We've had issues with unauthorized access before. I just need to double-check a few things." Malik didn't argue, didn't flinch. But deep in his chest, a familiar weight settled in, the kind that every successful black man in America has carried at one point or another. The weight of having to prove you belong. Over and over again. The lounge went quiet as she whispered into a headset. Security arrived. 2 guards, one already eyeing Malik's briefcase like it held a threat. He didn't move. Just stood there. Composed. Patient. Watching. They didn't know who he was. Not yet. But by the time this flight was over, the world would. And so would Skyjet Airlines. Because today, they chose the wrong man to humiliate. Just 10 hours earlier, Malik Andrews stood on the 41st floor of his Manhattan headquarters, overlooking the skyline with a fresh espresso in hand. Morning sunlight spilled across the glass walls of Andrews' Capitol, reflecting off polished marble and brushed steel. Around him, executives buzzed with nervous energy, but Malik remained centered, his presence calm, commanding. He'd just wrapped up a $280 million deal in Singapore the night before, taking only a few hours sleep at the peninsula before flying back for the next battle. Sleep, for Malik, was a luxury. Results were his reality. His assistant, Jenna, entered with her usual stack of documents and a focused expression. "Car is waiting downstairs. Jets prepped at JFK. I've also included updated projections for the San Diego pitch. It's solid." Malik nodded, flipping through the numbers without needing to pause. "Triple-check our regulatory exposure. I don't want surprises when we cross the West Coast threshold." Jenna smiled. "Already did. And your suit's already on the hanger in the car." "Perfect." As they walked to the private elevator, staff members straightened up instinctively, offering nods, clearing paths. Not out of fear. Out of respect. Malik's presence wasn't loud. He didn't need it to be. Every move was intentional, every silence strategic. He'd built his empire without shortcuts, without scandal, and without apology. The black Cadillac Escalade waiting at the curb was spotless, climate-controlled, and stocked with everything he needed for a 5-hour flight. Inside, he loosened his tie slightly, removed his Rolex, and replaced it with a fitness band. Balance, after all, was still part of the game. As the vehicle pulled away from the city noise, his phone buzzed. A brief text from a venture partner, "Heard you're flying Skyjet today. Brave." Malik chuckled. He had reasons, strategic ones. Skyjet was a potential acquisition target. He wanted to see it from the inside before pulling any financial triggers. At JFK, the limo rolled through the VIP gate. Baggage handlers recognized him immediately. One offered to carry his briefcase, but Malik waved him off gently. "I've got it." He moved with ease, past private security, through the terminal designed for Fortune 500 royalty. But not everyone recognized royalty when they saw it. And in just a few minutes, one lounge attendant would remind him of a lesson he knew all too well. Success doesn't always silence prejudice. Not even when you own the building. The check-in desk at Skyjet's first-class counter was draped in sleek chrome and soft LED lighting, designed to evoke elegance and exclusivity. Malik approached with the ease of someone who had stood in far grander places. In his hand, he held the black-on-black boarding envelope reserved only for Skyjet's highest-tier passengers, Black Diamond Elite. Fewer than 2,000 members nationwide. Behind the counter stood a young woman with a polished ponytail and a tight, practiced smile. Her name tag read Chelsea. She glanced up as Malik approached, then immediately backed down. No warmth, no recognition, just reflexive dismissal. "Good afternoon," Malik said, placing his passport and envelope on the counter. Chelsea looked at the documents, then at him, then back at the documents. Her fingers paused over the keyboard. "I'm sorry, sir. Are you sure this is the right line? First class and elite check-in only." Malik tilted his head slightly. "That's correct. Seat 1A. She scanned the pass. Her brow furrowed. "This is unusual," she muttered, not realizing, or not caring, that her microphone was still on. "What's unusual?" Malik asked, keeping his tone neutral. Chelsea faked a small laugh. "Nothing, it's just rare to see this level of status on file. I need to verify a few things." Without explanation, she picked up the phone, turning her body slightly away as she whispered into the receiver. Malik stood motionless, noting every detail. The people around him were being checked in swiftly. 2 white men in suits passed through in under 30 seconds. Champagne was even offered to a couple behind him. When Chelsea returned, she asked, "Can you confirm the address on your account?" Malik gave it. "And your corporate affiliation?" He gave that too. Still, she frowned. Malik raised an eyebrow. "Would you like my social security number while we're at it?" Chelsea looked up, caught off guard. "No, sir, I was just being thorough. Only with me, it seems." There was no anger in his voice, but the weight of his words hung heavy between them. She finally printed his bag tag and handed back his documents. "Enjoy your flight." He took them, nodded once, and walked away. She didn't know who he was. She didn't care. But in about 4 hours, her entire company would. And this little moment, this unnecessary pause, would become part of a much larger conversation. Because Malik wasn't just documenting this. He was calculating. Malik moved through the security checkpoint with the efficiency of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. Shoes off, laptop out, liquids in a clear quart-sized bag. He knew the routine by heart. But this time, it played differently. "Random screening," the TSA agent said flatly, pointing to Malik after he passed through the scanner. The agent didn't make eye contact. Didn't explain. Just pointed. Malik looked to his left. A man in sweatpants and flip-flops, white, scruffy, with a half-finished energy drink in hand, was waved right through. No second glance. He stepped aside without protest, setting his briefcase on the metal table. Another agent began swabbing his hands, his belt, the inside of his collar. His watch was removed. His jacket was patted down, twice. The security officer didn't bother to explain what they were looking for. Behind him, he heard a muttered, "Damn, they're always checking the wrong people." Malik didn't react. He was used to it. Not numb. Not okay with it. Just familiar. Minutes later, he walked the long hallway toward Terminal B, Gate 34. Skyjet's signature blue and gold logo pulsed softly on digital signs. The first-class boarding area was roped off, elegant, quiet. Leather chairs, filtered lighting, a self-serve espresso bar. A gate agent named Lisa Moore stood behind the desk. She was in her early 40s, stern, neatly put together. As Malik approached, boarding pass in hand, her smile tightened into something more formal and colder. "This line is for first-class priority only," she announced, just loud enough for surrounding passengers to hear. Malik paused, holding out his pass. "That's me." Lisa looked him up and down, her scan less about security and more about assumption. "Do you have identification?" He handed her his driver's license and Black Diamond Elite card, again. She frowned. "Huh. Okay, just 1 second." She turned to whisper to the other gate agent, glancing back at Malik twice during the conversation. He stood calmly, unmoving. Behind him, another man walked up, white, business casual, holding only a boarding pass. Lisa smiled warmly and waved him through without a word. When she finally turned back to Malik, she scanned his pass. The machine beeped green. But then she said, "Please wait by the side. I need to double-check something with a supervisor." Malik stepped aside, jaw tight, Heart steady. Different uniform. Same energy. And they still didn't know who they were dealing with. Not yet. Passengers had begun to gather near the boarding area, their carry-ons in hand, earbuds dangling, eyes occasionally flicking toward the gate. The first-class sign glowed softly, beckoning travelers to a world of luxury and quiet. But for Malik, standing slightly apart from the line, the experience was anything but refined. Lisa Moore, the gate agent, tapped something on her tablet with a little too much intensity, lips pursed like she was solving a national crisis. A younger agent beside her whispered something, clearly uncomfortable. Lisa brushed him off. The intercom crackled to life. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now ready to begin boarding our first-class cabin. Please line up in the priority lane. Malik stepped forward again, calm, steady, still holding the same boarding pass, same ID, same black diamond card. Nothing had changed, except now, more people were watching. Lisa raised her hand like a traffic cop. Sir, I need you to step aside. There's been a glitch in the system with some upgraded passengers. We need to verify everything manually. Her voice was louder this time, deliberate. A ripple passed through the crowd. Curious glances. A few passengers paused mid-step to watch. Someone pulled out their phone, not to record, just to look busy while eavesdropping. I've already shown you everything, Malik said, voice low, steady. Lisa's smile was tight, performative. I understand, but we just want to make sure there's no mistake. These tickets are very expensive, and we wouldn't want any embarrassment later. Malik's jaw clenched. That word again. Embarrassment. Then I hope you're also re-verifying every other first-class passenger with the same rigor, he replied, loud enough for the nearby onlookers to hear. Lisa faltered, briefly. Security will assist shortly. Please wait. A Skyjet supervisor in a navy blazer approached, clipboard in hand. He scanned Malik's documents for all of 6 seconds, then nodded. It's valid. He's good to go. Lisa hesitated, then stepped back, motioning toward the jet bridge like she was doing him a favor. You may proceed. Malik didn't thank her. He didn't nod. He walked forward with a kind of stillness that came from years of practice, carrying dignity in spaces designed to strip it away. Behind him, whispers swirled. A couple exchanged glances. An older black woman in a wheelchair murmured to her daughter, "He handled that better than I ever could." But Malik wasn't thinking about the crowd. He was thinking about the storm he was about to unleash, and how this exact moment would be the first domino to fall. The click of Malik's shoes against the jet bridge floor was almost hypnotic, controlled, unhurried, deliberate. The cabin door stood open like a mouth about to swallow him into yet another space where he'd have to prove, again, that he belonged. He paused. Not because he was unsure, but because it was time. Instead of stepping aboard immediately, he turned to the left, where a small, rarely used lavatory sat tucked behind a wall, meant for crew only. He knocked once, opened it, and stepped inside. The door locked with a quiet click. From his inner jacket pocket, Malik pulled out a slim, matte black device, sleek, encrypted, and only issued to C-level executives who managed billion-dollar decisions on the move. It wasn't a regular phone. It was a satellite-linked command node. He tapped the screen. The display lit up, requesting biometric verification. A thumbprint. Then a retinal scan. Then connection. The signal bounced through layers of encryption before stabilizing. Malik scrolled to one contact. J. Whitman, COO, Andrews Capital. He pressed call. Josh, Malik said when the line connected, his voice measured, even. It's me. I'm on Skyjet 1177, JFK to San Diego. A brief pause. I assume the incident I just texted you is logged? Yes, Josh replied immediately. Just finished reading it. She really asked you to step aside. Loudly. With security waiting. Josh exhaled sharply. What do you want to do? Malik didn't hesitate. Phase 1. Activate the acquisition sequence. Start quiet. Full stealth buys. Funnel through the usual shell firms. Move fast. I want 18% of their outstanding stock by nightfall. Another pause. This isn't a drill? No, Malik said. It's not revenge. It's proof that when you disrespect the wrong man in front of a plane full of strangers, the ground shakes, And Phase 2. I'll let you know after Wheels Up. Josh understood. Copy that. Legal's already on standby. I'll call Diane at Regulatory Compliance. We'll prep the filings. One more thing, Malik added. Make sure our PR team is completely dark for now. No leaks. Understood. You'll have the acquisition dashboard live in your secure cloud folder within 20 minutes. Perfect. Malik ended the call. He stared at the device for a beat, then placed it back in his jacket, straightened his tie, and looked at his reflection in the mirror. No rage. No fire. Just focus. Then he stepped out of the lavatory, rejoined the line, and boarded the flight like any other man. Except this time, he was the man who'd just started buying the airline. Malik stepped into the first-class cabin of Skyjet Flight 1177 with the same quiet grace he carried into every boardroom. His seat, 1A, was already waiting, crisp linen folded neatly, a leather amenity kit placed just so, and a chilled bottle of water resting in its holder. He slid his briefcase under the seat and sat down without a word. But the stares had already started. Not from the passengers. From the crew. The lead flight attendant, Chloe, a woman in her late 30s with a kind of practiced smile that came from years of smiling for tips, stood a few rows back, watching him. She walked over with professional stiffness. "Excuse me, sir," she said, her voice brittle around the edges. "May I see your boarding pass again?" Malik blinked, surprised. "You mean, after the gate check? And security? And the lounge?" "Yes, sir. Just for verification," she added quickly. "We've had some issues lately with passengers sitting in the wrong cabin." Her tone wasn't angry. It was worse, casually dismissive. As if his presence in seat 1A required special scrutiny. Malik handed over his boarding pass without a word. Again. She studied it like it was counterfeit. Flipping it. Holding it up to the light. Scanning the barcode with her phone. It beeped. Green. She nodded, handing it back. "Thank you." No apology. No smile. Just thank you. Malik returned the pass to his breast pocket and resumed reading from his tablet. His documents for the Skyjet acquisition were already waiting in a secure folder. Numbers. Legal terms. Internal hiring patterns. HR complaints. The bones of an empire beginning to rattle. 10 minutes later, Chloe returned to the front of the cabin with a tray of pre-flight drinks, sparkling water, champagne, orange juice. She moved down the row with warm greetings. "Mr. Lin, would you like a mimosa?" "Miss Carmichael, champagne for you?" She stopped at seat 1B. Served the passenger. Then, skipped 1A. Didn't even glance. Malik looked up, calm. After she passed, he raised a finger. "Excuse me," he said gently. "I believe you missed me." Chloe turned slowly, already defensive. "Oh, I assumed you were an economy upgrade. They typically don't receive pre-flight beverages." Malik kept his tone even. "I'm Black Diamond Elite. Seat 1A. Confirmed." Chloe blinked. "Right. My mistake." She returned with a half-filled glass of lukewarm champagne, slushing slightly as she dropped it on his tray. No eye contact. No grace. Just cold bubbles and colder silence. But Malik didn't sip it. He wasn't here for comfort. He was here to watch a system collapse, one indignity at a time. The cabin settled into quiet after takeoff, the hum of the engines a low, consistent presence. Passengers reclined slightly, sipped drinks, adjusted noise-canceling headphones. But Malik remained upright, reviewing documents on his tablet with the kind of focus that comes from knowing you're about to change someone's world, and not in the way they expect. Across the aisle in 1C, a man leaned slightly over. "Excuse me," he said in a measured voice. "I couldn't help but notice earlier, at the gate, and then again with the drink service." Malik glanced up. The man looked mid-50s, salt and pepper beard, tailored blazer, law journal tucked under his arm. "I'm Richard Torres," he continued, extending a hand. "Civil rights attorney. And what I just witnessed might be the clearest textbook case I've seen in years." Malik shook his hand, offering a faint smile. "Malik Andrews." Richard's expression froze for a moment. His eyes dropped to Malik's tablet screen, where Skyjet's stock graph dipped in real time. Then to the document header at the top. Phase 1, Strategic Acquisition Proposal, Skyjet Airlines. Richard leaned back slowly, absorbing the moment. You're not just another mistreated passenger. No, Malik said simply. I'm the one buying their airline. Richard exhaled, equal parts impressed and stunned. Well, that explains the silence. Most people yell. You moved pieces. Malik nodded once. Silence is louder when it's followed by action. Across the cabin, Chloe passed again with a tray of warm mixed nuts and fresh napkins. She paused at 1B, offered a friendly smile, set the bowl down gently. At 1A, she hesitated. Her eyes flicked to the tablet screen, to the line graph, to Malik's name now clearly visible in an internal email he was reviewing. Her posture stiffened. Would you care for anything else, Mr. Andrews? She asked, tone suddenly respectful. Too late. Malik looked up with polite detachment. No. I'm fine. The sudden shift in tone wasn't lost on Richard, or on the passengers who had watched Chloe overlook him twice. The dynamic in the cabin had changed. Not because Malik had raised his voice, but because now, whispers were beginning to circulate. Phones were buzzing. Skyjet stock was dropping rapidly. Business news outlets were pushing breaking updates about an unconfirmed but aggressive takeover bid. And Chloe. She kept glancing back at seat 1A, unsure if she'd just served a man, or a reckoning. 2,000 miles away, inside a glass and steel skyscraper in downtown Chicago, the headquarters of Skyjet Airlines was anything but calm. In the executive command center on the 28th floor, a wall of screens blinked with alerts, stock price trackers, real-time trade feeds, social media pings, internal chat logs. The digital heartbeat of a company that had just realized it was under attack. Skyjet CFO, Thomas Graves, stared at a Bloomberg terminal, his fingers frozen mid-keystroke. We're down 14% in 40 minutes. No press leak, no earnings report due, no scandal. This isn't natural. Beside him, Skyjet's chief strategy officer scrolled furiously through transaction reports. They're coming in through multiple holding firms. No flags, all staggered, automated buys. Looks like a coordinated move. The CEO, Cynthia McMillan, entered the room, heels clicking with urgency. Her phone buzzed non-stop. She looked pale. Talk to me, she demanded. We're being acquired, Thomas said grimly. Or at least, someone's trying. Quietly, but aggressively. Phew. The room fell silent. The head of security, Mark Jenkins, stepped forward. We're tracing ownership now. So far, the purchasing pattern mirrors one used before, during the Helix Airlines takeover 3 years ago. Cynthia's eyes narrowed. Andrews Capital. Most likely, Mark replied. That's their MO, fast, silent, no warning. By the time we figure it out, they're already holding voting rights. Cynthia shook her head. We have no relationship with Andrews Capital. Why would they? She stopped mid-sentence. Because it hit her. Something had happened. Something recent. Check our manifests, she ordered suddenly. Is there any chance someone from Andrews is on a flight right now? Something triggered this. An assistant pulled up the flight database. We've got VIP passengers on 1177, JFK to San Diego. Black Diamond cabin. Anyone named Malik Andrews? Cynthia asked, almost whispering. The assistant paused. Yes, seat 1A. Just took off an hour ago. Cynthia's face drained of color. She turned to Thomas. We need to contact that plane. Now. Thomas nodded. We'll push an urgent directive to the cockpit. But if this is Malik Andrews, we're not dealing with a negotiation. No, Cynthia muttered. We're dealing with consequences. Across the room, one of the screens updated again. Skyjet Holdings, down 17.4%. Below it, a banner. Breaking, rumors of hostile takeover circulate after unusual stock activity. Cynthia turned toward the glass windows, staring out at the city skyline. This isn't just a stock drop, she said quietly. This is a message. At cruising altitude, Flight 1177 sailed through calm skies above Colorado. The seatbelt sign was off. Meal service was underway. And yet, tension rippled through the cockpit. The captain, Bill Harmon, tapped his headset twice, listening as a secure message came through from corporate. Repeat that, he said, eyes narrowing. You're looking for who? The voice on the other end was clipped, urgent. Malik Andrews, CEO of Andrews Capital. We have reason to believe he may be on board this aircraft. Bill blinked, quickly scrolling through the VIP manifest on his tablet. Seat 1A, M. Andrews. Profession, business executive. He turned to his first officer. We have him. Right here. The co-pilot stared. You're kidding. That's the guy. The captain didn't answer. He simply hit the cabin intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, apologies for the interruption. If there is a passenger on board from Andrews Capital, we kindly ask you to identify yourself to a member of the flight crew. We've received an urgent communication from corporate. The cabin hushed instantly. Heads turned. Chloe, the lead flight attendant, froze mid-aisle, holding a tray of dessert plates. Her eyes darted to 1A. She'd heard that name. She'd seen the news pings. She turned slowly toward Malik, already knowing the answer before the question left her lips. Sir, I don't suppose you're with Andrews Capital, are you? Malik didn't flinch. He reached into the breast pocket of his jacket and pulled out a matte black business card with silver embossed lettering. He handed it to her between two fingers. Chloe looked down. Malik D. Andrews, Chief Executive Officer, Andrews Capital Group. She swallowed hard. The same man she'd questioned, ignored, skipped over twice. The man who hadn't raised his voice, hadn't demanded apologies. The man who, right now, was dismantling her employer one silent trade at a time. I need to inform the captain, she whispered, almost tripping as she turned toward the galley. Across the aisle, Richard Torres watched the moment with subtle satisfaction. Malik calmly retrieved his card, returned it to his pocket, and picked up his tablet again, this time opening a dashboard titled, Skyjet Holdings, Acquisition Pathway, Phase 1. Passengers murmured around them, some checking headlines on their phones, others pretending not to stare. But it didn't matter anymore. The mask was off. The man they dismissed was now the man in charge. The wheels of Flight 1177 touched down at San Diego International Airport with a gentle thud, the kind that usually draws quiet praise from seasoned travelers. But this time, there were no murmurs of appreciation. The cabin was still. Everyone was waiting. For what? Most of them weren't entirely sure. Malik Andrews closed his tablet and slipped it into his briefcase, his movements composed, deliberate. He straightened his already crisp tie and adjusted his cuffs as if preparing for a boardroom, not baggage claim. The captain's voice came over the intercom, slightly shakier than before. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask all passengers to remain seated for a few extra moments. First class will be deplaning in a staggered fashion at the request of Skyjet Corporate. Richard Torres raised an eyebrow. I've flown hundreds of times. That's a first. Malik just nodded, already knowing what was waiting. Outside, through the oval window, 5 executives stood on the jet bridge in full suits, their faces tense. Among them, Cynthia McMillan, CEO of Skyjet. She clutched a tablet, her knuckles white around its edges. The aircraft door opened with a hiss. Chloe, pale and visibly shaken, approached seat 1A. Mr. Andrews, Skyjet's executive team is here to welcome you personally. Would you like to speak with them before exiting? Malik stood. He didn't ask questions. He didn't smile. He walked. The passengers in first class fell silent as he moved past, the weight of what was happening slowly dawning on them. At the end of the jet bridge, Cynthia stepped forward. Mr. Andrews, Malik raised a hand, cutting her off gently, firmly. We'll talk in a secure setting. But understand this, I wasn't disrespected today because I'm a CEO. I was disrespected because I'm a black man with a first-class ticket. That distinction matters. Cynthia's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. My firm now owns 23% of Skyjet, Malik continued. That number will rise before sunset. He turned to the others. You've trained your staff to look past people like me. You built a culture that allows it. What you didn't know was that one day, someone like me would own the building. He adjusted his cuffs again. I'm not here for apologies. I'm here for restructuring. And with that, he stepped forward, leaving the stunned executives behind him. The future of Skyjet had landed, and it wore a navy suit. 1 year later, the Skyjet brand no longer existed. In its place stood Unity Air, a rebranded airline with a new identity, a new leadership team, and a mission built on equity, transparency, and earned trust. The transformation wasn't cosmetic. It was cultural, structural, intentional. The airline's website featured a new motto, etched boldly across its homepage. Dignity flies with us. And behind that simple line was the man who had once stood silently at gate 34, waiting for validation he never needed. Malik Andrews hadn't just bought an airline. He rewrote the rules. Today, the first-class lounges at Unity Air no longer relied on gut instinct and glances to determine who belonged. Protocols were standardized. Staff received immersive anti-bias training. Internal complaints were no longer dismissed, but tracked, investigated, and published as part of the company's annual report. Diversity was no longer a goal. It was an operating principle. Complaints of discrimination dropped by 91%. Employer retention rose by 32%. Customer satisfaction hit record highs, especially among Black, Asian, and Latino passengers who no longer feared extra scrutiny for simply dressing well. But the ripple effect didn't stop with Unity Air. Other airlines took notice. Competitors who once dismissed Malik's acquisition as a fluke now scrambled to update their own internal policies. Shareholders asked harder questions. Executives sat through longer meetings. The industry shifted, not from pressure, but from precedent. The Williams effect. The Andrews standard. Call it what you want. It worked. And yet, Malik never sought praise. He rarely gave interviews. When asked about the takeover, his response was always the same. I didn't do it because I was angry. I did it because I could. Because he understood something many don't. Systemic change doesn't always start with shouting. Sometimes it starts with silence, followed by strategy. His story became required reading in business ethics courses. The Harvard Case Study. A keynote discussion at the National Civil Rights Conference. But more importantly, it sparked kitchen table conversations about bias, power, and the quiet ways people are made to feel small. So here's the question. When you witness injustice, whether it's subtle or loud, do you turn away? Or do you lean in? You may not be able to buy a corporation, but you can raise your voice. You can stand beside someone being singled out. You can write the email, file the complaint, tell this story. Because sometimes, change doesn't come from above. It comes from the person no one expected. Sitting in seat 1A.